LS3P is a multidisciplinary firm that offers architecture, interiors, and planning services for clients across the Southeast. Today, I talk one-on-one with the CEO of LS3P, Marc Marchant, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Marc Marchant, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin. It's great to be with you today.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. I know that you are the CEO of LS3P, which is a multidisciplinary firm offering architecture, interiors, and planning services to a wide variety of clients nationwide. Who is Marc Marchant these days?
Well, as you said, I am the CEO of LS3P, and I'm fairly new in the role. I've been here for a little over 2 years, which is interesting because we entered a pandemic, as you know, shortly after I had the opportunity to step into this role. So Marc these days is a very excited member of our team. We are continuing to grow. We're continuing to look at ways to better serve our clients in the Southeast. And Marc is grateful for that. So I think that's who I am today. Very excited for the opportunity to serve our firm, to serve our community, and to work with a wonderful group of people and clients across our 3 states.
Now, what is the pace of your growth?
We have steady growth right now. In fact, most recently, and I don't know if you saw this in some of the recent news publications, but we were fortunate to add 2 new offices to our firm, one in Greensboro, North Carolina, and one in Asheville, North Carolina. So that's some real, tangible, specific growth. But outside of those 2 opportunities and mergers of 26 new team members, we are also continuing to grow because the Southeast is growing, and we need new schools, and we need new hospitals, and we need new office buildings. And we at LS3P are very fortunate to have the opportunity to engage in a lot of those projects. So it's steady growth, it's measured growth. Sometimes you feel like you hold the reins a little tighter because things are moving so quickly. But it's an exciting time to be an architect for sure.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, Marc. How do you actually keep up with the growth by having smart growth?
Well, maybe you're getting to smart growth in our buildings, but also smart growth within the firm. So I can talk a little bit about both. As it relates to buildings, you know, there's a lot of energy in Charleston, as you know, and even in the Southeast about how to grow smart. How do we take advantage of zoning to create appropriate building heights and the engagement with the street and accommodating parking and making sure that we have mixed use so that people can live closer to where they work. We, as an architecture firm, are participating in a lot of different forums and groups in our communities to talk about how smart growth can happen in our communities. We want to be part of the solution and part of ways to attract and retain more talent in our communities, to serve our clients, to make sure that we can, in concert with others, work on things like traffic congestion and accessibility to healthcare and the ability to get to school without having to drive across counties and things like that. So smart growth has a lot to do with all of those things. And as designers and planners, we're very much engaged in that. On the firm side, on the business side of LS3P, smart growth is really about strategic growth. We adopted a new strategic plan a little more than 2.5 years ago. That strategic plan talks about our commitment to the Southeast. It talks about creating architecture that enriches community. It talks about design excellence, innovation, collaborative engagement. So how we grow in our firm always has to harken back to the tenets of our vision. Are we truly doing things that are dedicated to the Southeast? Are we truly embracing innovation and design excellence in everything we do? I think my job and many of my partners' roles in the firm are to determine how we grow according to those tenets of our vision, and that's smart growth. When we think about opportunities that are around us, sometimes we may say, is that the right project to pursue, or is that the right market to move into? And if we go back to our vision and test it against our vision, the answer is usually there. So again, those guiding principles, those tenets help us keep a rein on how we grow with strategic optimism.
And I want to get back to the vision in just a second, but you talked earlier about obviously attracting, retaining talent. How are you, Marc, offering real learning opportunities to the talent, which facilitates their career growth?
Yeah, it's a great question, and every industry is dealing with this right now. I mean, every night when you watch the news or you read the paper in the mornings, you see the job growth rate is up, but the job market or the people in the job market are low, right? So it's very hard to find talent, and certainly important to retain your talent. I think the pandemic taught us a lot of things about how we work and how we can best work depending on the tasks before us. In the design world, a lot of our work is highly collaborative. We like to roll up our sleeves, take out the pen and paper, sketch, test ideas against each other. And sometimes that means we need to be together and we need to work together and have that kind of traditional in-person dialogue and exchange. We also have a lot of tasks that require focus, where we can do these things from anywhere, from our homes, from an area where we don't need to necessarily collaborate with other people. And so what we've done at our firm is try to offer a hybrid work environment so that people can best provide their talents across the tasks that they need to perform in the environment that's most appropriate. And sometimes that's in the office and sometimes that's not in the office. It also allows our people to have flexibility to address some personal needs. You got to get a child to an appointment, or your dog is sick and you have to take the dog to the vet. And so allowing some flexibility around the workday to do that has really helped us invest more in our people's needs, both professionally and personally, and hopefully provide a hybrid work environment that retains talent. The other side of this is professional development. How do we continue to invest in our people? We do that internally with a really great what we call academy, where we have weekly opportunities for people to learn. We bring in outside resources to teach. We also have people internally that teach and share ideas. We give people professional development allowances so they can go out and learn things that may not be offered within the firm. Growing our people is very important and another way to retain our talent. And then certainly growing the firm so that we can grow the capabilities of compensating people more and giving better benefits and all those things that any good business would do to retain and attract talent.
Now, what are those things that you're not offering the firm that you're allowing your workers to go out and actually acquire?
I'm sorry, could you ask that one more time? I didn't catch it.
Oh, yes, sir. What exactly are outside of the firm that you all don't have inside the firm that you're allowing employees to actually acquire?
Sure. So, for example, perhaps tapping into resources that are experts in public speaking, or tapping into resources that might be experts in the technical aspects of building design and teaching that at a more rigorous level as it relates to, say, waterproofing or medical planning. There are experts around the country that do that every day. And while we have people in the firm that do those kind of things, sometimes bringing outside expertise in is helpful. And sending people to conferences for sure. Industry conferences such as the AIA, different academies within the AIA, which is the American Institute of Architects, that offer deeper dives into education practices or healthcare practices or urban planning. All of those things are out there within our industry, and we want to get our folks to educational opportunities so they can learn more and grow themselves professionally.
What is the state of your industry?
The space?
What is the state of your industry?
Oh, the state, yes.
Yes, sir.
I would say the state of our industry is strong for sure. It's also in a state of change, in flux, as it often is. Some of that is related to building technology, as building technologies change and how we adapt to that. Some of that is related to community change. We hear often those that are concerned around architecture and how it influences the cities that are continuing to grow, or the environment, or are we providing enough affordable housing? So our industry is trying to respond in a very positive way to all of those outward interests and sometimes outward pressures. I think also architecture is in a place right now where there's a lot of excitement around collaboration across many markets that traditionally might have been peripheral to architecture. So the construction industry, the design industry, the development industry are collaborating better than they ever have before, so that we can create more effective solutions for our clients. I mentioned earlier sustainability, or the environment. How do we minimize our carbon footprint in the world? Buildings contribute to a lot of carbon and unsustainable practices in the world. Concrete and steel, to produce concrete and steel, creates a lot of issues that concern the environment. So how do we as architects develop better strategies around that? Again, always in a state of change, but certainly in a state of growth, and our ability to maintain best practices to make buildings better, and therefore make our communities and our places to live, work, and play better.
What are those upward pressures?
Well, I think, let's take Charleston specifically, Quintin, because both you and I live here. Growth is always on the agenda, right? We in our community are fortunate to have the waterways and the creeks and the marshes that we all enjoy. We love the low country for all those things, but they're also impediments to growth, right? You have to cross bridges. We have more flooding events than we've ever had. We have members of our community that are very interested in stopping certain types of growth. And so I think we as an industry and we as a community have to get together and educate each other on why certain growth is important. When is density important? When is density not important? How does transportation and infrastructure affect growth and architecture? How does sea level change or the more rains we have that cause flooding influence architecture and growth? That is a little bit of the outward pressure, but it's also opportunity to be innovative and to take advantage of successful experiments around the world that contemplate these kind of things and find solutions. So I think that's one kind of outward pressure. Another right now is availability of labor and costs. So our construction industry is seeing some substantial challenges with finding adequate labor and skill to build buildings. As we know, there's escalation in cost. There's very limited supply right now, with a lot of our equipment and materials stuck offshore or stuck in the manufacturing process. So those outward pressures create opportunities for innovation in either scheduling or design, material selection, or thinking about ways to be adaptable to what am I trying to say here? Phasing projects based on availability of labor or materials, and then helping manage costs, which is really, really challenging right now as we sit in 2022.
Yes, sir. As you know, there's always the talk about fill and bill, and the people stopping. We want to stop growth here in Charleston, but what growth is really important for the environment and for your industry?
That's a good question. What growth is important for the environment? I think it's got to be growth that's in concert with changing environmental issues, and the kind of growth that's in concert with using systems and materials and strategies so that our buildings are not contributing to the environmental issues at hand, but hopefully helping repair some of the environmental challenges. How do our buildings create their own energy so that we don't have to use energy from other sources? How do we use materials that are lighter on the footprint of the environment? So I think that's one issue. How, back to this idea of density, how can we maximize the land available with height and mass and scale of buildings that accommodates the needs of that community, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's needed retail, whether it's having healthcare close to where people live, or schools close to where people live, and at the same time not treating density to the extent that we max out every buildable area. We have to be sensitive to how that building responds to the context of its adjacent environment, and also how it might respond to the context of the environmental environment. So I think using those kind of strategies and thinking about how architecture can be more of an integrative or integrating force within the context or within the community that it finds itself, and also create and afford opportunities to better the place from what it was before that building might have existed.
Yes, sir. As you know, and everybody else knows here in Charleston, Charleston is, I'm pretty sure, as you know, is basically maxed out as far as, land availability. Where else in the Southeast do you expect that to happen next?
Well, I think we probably have more land than you think. It's how we use the land that's important. But where some other growth is happening that's exponential, we continue to see a lot of growth in Raleigh and Charlotte, which is two locations where we're fortunate to have offices. Exponential growth. And a lot of that is in multifamily and commercial, manufacturing and industrial. We're seeing a lot of people move to the Southeast, and those are two cities that are certainly growing at a fast pace. I still think that as more people move here, we have to consider how we grow, though. And getting ahead of that 5, 10, 15 years is going to be really important. That's where architects and planners and engineers and community leaders can come together to look at some of those kind of strategies. Another thing is, how are we reinventing some of the places that traditionally grew back in the 60s and 70s? A great example of that is West Ashley. There's a lot of things built in West Ashley, but could they be rebuilt in a different way that actually accommodates more people, land, right? Less sprawl and more vertical building that allows us to have more green space and less maybe building footprints in an area, but where we can accommodate more services and more people. Again, that's getting back to maximizing the use of the land. If you're allowed to build 5 stories, why would you build 2, right? So it's that kind of dialogue with the community and also with understanding best practices that I think makes us a better place to live when we can maximize those kind of things.
Where else in this particular Tri-County can you actually do those things?
Well, we're seeing growth in North Charleston for sure, and as we move north and Goose Creek, and as industry moves north, and so some of those communities are looking at comprehensive planning opportunities for that kind of growth. So I think we're beginning to think strategically and get ahead of those kind of issues that we might have seen back in the 70s, 80s, early 90s, closer to the peninsula. Where we can do things in a smarter way moving forward as this community continues to grow.
And this is a basic question for you, Mark, but what is popular right now in Charleston? What do people want? Do they want, the multifamily units? What exactly is it?
I think it depends on who you ask, Quintin, to be honest with you. Here's one thing as it relates to living. Here's some facts that we know. And these aren't exactly right. This data is not exactly right because I'm sure it's changed. But more recently, there was a data point that suggested we needed 7,000 living units over the next year to accommodate growth. Right? There are members of our community that would love to live in multifamily developments. There are other members in the community that want to live in single-family detached developments. Right? And so we have to find a variety of solutions to accommodate those different types of living arrangements. We know, and the data suggests this, that some of our younger generations now are driving less and want to drive less, which means they need to live in a place where they can walk to all of the services that are needed in any kind of daily or weekly living needs, whether that's walking to your work or walking to healthcare or walking to get groceries. That's important. And so think about something like Low Country Rapid Transit, which is a new transportation opportunity in the Low Country, where building density around that line is going to be really important because people can live within a tight radius, accommodating all of their needs, and then jump on a transportation infrastructure that maybe takes them to their job, which is really important. So again, I think it depends on who you ask, how they want to live and what type of environment they want to live, which is why we need to provide a variety and a diversity of products to accommodate that.
And what are those products that your team is actually looking at right now?
Yeah. Good question. We do not work on single family residential projects, so that's sort of out of our wheelhouse. What we are very involved in right now is a lot of multifamily apartment buildings, and this is across the Southeast and from all 11 of our offices. That is one of the largest growing sectors within our portfolio. And we've seen that spike over the last 3 years, even during COVID. So we are working on anything from apartment buildings as small as 50 units to up to 350 units. In Charlotte, we're doing projects that are 15, 20 stories. In Charleston, they're more like 3 or 4, and everything in between. So our design work and focus to living and the growth of living in the Southeast is really in that multifamily space. Now, within that usually means we have parking, we have retail often, and sometimes some activity and entertainment space associated with this building. So trying to create places where there's multiple offerings for those that live in that environment.
And with those outward pressures that you basically laid out during this particular interview, how do you build technology?
Yeah, well, technology is always changing, right? And so it's accommodating the infrastructure to accept technology as it changes. Some of that is related to environmental things like solar power, like catching rainwater, holding that rainwater and releasing it at the right time so that we don't contribute to flooding on a particular part of the city or a particular block. Obviously, everybody is used to having the highest speed technology that can be afforded, and so we're always looking at ways to accommodate those things for people that are working from home and people that want to do all the convenient things that technology provides. I think the other thing that technology is beginning to offer us is in the design and built environment is thinking about strategies to create modular building systems. You know, can you literally build an apartment suite that can sit on the back of a flatbed truck, be shipped to a place, lifted in place, and added to other apartment suites within a building, and then that building gets clad and the roof gets placed on top of that. We are actually engaged in projects like that. In healthcare, can you design and build a patient room in a factory, bring it in on a truck, lift it into place so that it's placed as part of those other beds adjacent, and therefore you're doing things smarter, you're doing things quicker, you're utilizing technology and a controlled environment to do construction. These things are happening. We're involved in those kind of things with very sophisticated contractors and clients, and that's one way we're utilizing technology to advance the design and built environment. The other is through virtual reality. So if Quintin, Washington wants to build a new office building anywhere within our reach, you can come into our office, put on virtual reality goggles, and we can walk you through that experience before we even finish the design process. It helps you make decisions about how you want your building to look and feel and operate. It also helps us better serve your needs and help the community better understand what that building might look like and how that might engage in an existing urban context because of the use of virtual reality. We're also beginning to see artificial intelligence enter into the design process. So that's just another iteration of technology and how it informs our industry. It's very exciting. It also requires us to think differently. It requires us to bring talent to our firms that may not be traditional architecture educated students. So, you know, gaming technologies are starting to move into the architecture space, which is really, really exciting.
I know earlier you talked about obviously testing ideas. What type of test ideas are your team actually testing with these particular products?
Yeah, so we have as part of our design team, we also have folks that are focused on research and data. Okay. Research and data is what's driving innovation in our industry. When we can use the buildings that we've completed and collect data and how those buildings are operating or how our clients are experiencing those buildings, we can then use that data and additional research outside of the data that we collect to better inform how we design buildings in the future. For example, we can follow how a nurse navigates a labor delivery unit in a hospital to determine how that nurse can minimize steps to and from supply or soiled linen to the patient to back to the nurse station, so that nurse can have a better experience of giving care to the patient and so that the nurse is spending more time with the patient, which, as data and research suggests, patients heal faster when they have more touch with their care provider. We can research that, and we can track data within the designs that we've completed and the designs that we're developing to then provide a better design outcome for our client. So we have people in our firm that think about that all the time.
Yes.
We can also look at sticking with a building prototype. Let's take a K through 12 classroom, for example. How many thousands of classrooms have been designed across our country? But each one of those classrooms helps better educate a student in a certain way, whether it's how the instructor is able to engage with that student, the technology that's in that classroom, the access to daylight and how daylight can affect a better learning environment for students. So we collect that data from the projects we design and take those best practices to better inform the next project we're going to produce for a client. Data and research is huge, and we have people dedicated to that to advance our solutions every day.
And what are those building prototypes that you're looking at for the future?
Oh, that's a good question. Some of that is still in development because we don't know what our clients are expecting in the future. And so I think as architects and as those that want to find the best solutions for the future, a lot of it is about problem seeking. How do we ask the right questions to our clients to determine how they can best envision something that maybe they've never experienced before? If you're building a new office building, but you've been working in an office, let's say we have a client that's been working in an office space that was designed in the early 80s, right? They only know how that space works for them. What they don't know is what they haven't experienced. And so we can bring some examples of experience that we've offered through design to clients more recently. And then we can also bring an acumen of problem seeking and questions and answers that helps them think about what they could be. So part of that future, the question you asked about the future is us being smart and strategic about how we mine information from our clients and how we think about innovation for what they could be.
Yes.
We have a group within our firm. We have these things called knowledge teams. And one of our knowledge teams is called Ignite. And they are charged with finding innovative solutions for future projects. So what they do is they take a problem and they develop multiple ways that problem could be solved using different thought processes from research, from data, and from just being sort of visionary. And maybe some of those ideas aren't good ideas at the end of the day, but we explore a lot of things that maybe we wouldn't normally get to explore in a regular design process. So that group can take an idea from a client or from a project and spend a few hours or days or even weeks formulating an innovative solution to that. We sometimes work with universities to do that. We sponsored a studio at North Carolina State University 3 years ago to look at rural healthcare. And so in working with the students, we were looking at what does healthcare really need to look like in 20 years? Again, that's about innovation and future thinking. We sponsored a studio at Clemson University where we were looking at the positive effects of using cross-laminated timber, which is a sustainable building product, in the design of K through 12 schools. And so using the building as a teaching tool for students, and also using the building as an opportunity to build sustainable environments in which kids can learn better and have a great place to go to school. So, again, working with academia, with universities to look at future opportunities, and then working within our internal teams to look at innovative solutions for future thinking that, again, we may not know what we don't know because we have to ask certain questions to get there.
And what is your commitment to collaborating at a level at which the ideal people on the ideal project can actually maximize design excellence and expertise for your company?
Man, you sound like you know our vision statement pretty well, Quintin. It's a great question, and actually one of the wonderful opportunities we have within our firm. So we truly operate as one firm. We have 11 offices in 3 states. 407 people was the number a couple days ago that I saw. And so of those 407 people, everyone has the opportunity to engage in a project across all 11 of our offices. we very much believe, and my colleagues often hear me say, we've got to use the right people in the right project for the right reason, which means we have to leverage the best expertise we have within the firm to provide the best solutions for a particular building type or a client. So we may have an office building that we're working on in Charleston, and we have design expertise in our Charlotte office because they do a lot of office work that can better inform a workplace strategy or a workplace environment for our client here in Charleston. But our local team will serve that client when it comes to all of the community design issues that are important to navigate, the permitting, the construction phase services. So it's leveraging the best resources across our entire firm to provide the best solutions for our clients.
And Zoom is giving me 2 minutes here, but let me ask you this. How do you add guidance to your vision for future growth and success for your company?
How do I add guidance? I think the best way for me to do that is always test what we're doing against our vision, and always test our vision against what we're getting ready to do, right? My job as CEO is to really provide vision and strategy along with many other things, but at the forefront of my responsibility is that vision guiding us in the right way. And so it's testing it both ways, is the thinking we're doing relevant and to our vision, and is our vision always taking us to the places that we need to go?
Where do you want to go next?
We want to continue to grow smartly. We want to continue to provide the best solutions for our clients. And sometimes that means our growth is within what we have today. How do we double down on our expertise, which means training our people better, attracting better talent to the firm to complement some of the great talent we have today. Growing doesn't always mean getting bigger. A lot of times it means getting better and faster and smarter. And so I think that's what we're focused on right now with our recent geographic growth, is how do we now leverage all the expertise within the firm to continue to serve our clients and become deeper experts in all of the different sectors that we serve.
And let me ask you this. What has been the return on the investment for LS3P as a result of design excellence, that is?
Well, I think it's kind of an old business formula, which is if you do good work and your clients are happy, they're going to come back and ask you for more work. So much of our work is repeat work. Over 75% of our work is repeat work. And so that return on investment plays out all the time when we can serve our clients in a very meaningful and successful way. Failing at business is not an option in that case, and failing at the relationships and the service you provide your client is not an option if you want to have that great return. We're very fortunate. Our founder, Frank Lucas, in 1963, founded this firm, and it was always about the people. It was about the people that work for us, and it's about the people that we serve, our clients. We have to keep that in the forefront always. If we serve our people internally and we serve our people externally, our clients, that return on investment will continue to grow in exponential and wonderful ways.
What is the biggest difference from 1963 to right now when you think of LS3P?
Well, 1963, maybe before you and I were around.
Right.
Hard for us to say emphatically what's different, but certainly the vision that Frank had to serve his community still serves today. That is absolutely the same. And I think we're all grateful for that. Everything we talked about today, though, is different, right? Technology, the way we deliver our projects, the cost, the outward and inward pressures, everything has changed. But if we maintain that commitment to people and community, I think we'll do great things.
Oh, yes, indeed. And this is going to be a silly question, Mark. What particular building design that you all have completed that really shows this is the best of LS3P?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I could probably tell you 20 different stories. Let me pick a local one, since a lot of your audience, I'm sure, is local. The South Carolina Aeronautical Center at Trident Technical College. Here's why that's such a wonderful building. Dr. Thornley, as you know, is a visionary. She's an amazing woman, an amazing leader. She knew that we needed to find a better opportunity and a better place to educate the next generation of aeronautical leaders. And so that project not only does that, it also trains Boeing team members and helps them continue to hone their craft through professional development opportunities. It's also a place for the community to gather where we can meet and talk about innovation and talk about things that are specific to things like innovation in paint and mechatronics and aeronautical engineering and all those kind of cool and unique things that drive that industry. So it's not just about the students at Trident Tech. It's not just about educating Boeing and continuing to allow them to be a phenomenal business community member. And it's not just about the community center that it is. It's all of those wonderful things. And that's why it was great to work on a project like that. It had a multifaceted approach to solving different opportunities within our community, and it happens to be a really beautiful building that we're very proud of. So, what a great example of what makes everyone excited to be an architect is providing a beautiful design that also serves the community in so many different ways.
And how much does LS3P want to be involved with the community in the next 10 years?
Very much so, and I would say we are today, and very much so in the future. We recently made a commitment and created a program called Design in Kind. And Design in Kind is an opportunity for us to use 1% of our revenues to do pro bono work for our communities. Last year, we worked on 24 pro bono projects. Some of these projects were for nonprofits to help them understand the vision of what a building could be for them. And that's a true commitment to the community and our resources and our time and our talent to do that. But in addition to that, we also encourage every team member to find one thing to do within their community. It could be something as simple as going down to Trident United Way to put together backpacks for kids returning to school, or something as substantial as serving as a board member at a community board level. But our hope is that everyone is engaged in the community in at least one activity. And I'm very proud to say that we are, and our firm is very proud of that commitment to the community in all 11 of our cities. It's something that drives us as professionals. It drives us as human beings, and allows us to be not just members of our community, but engaged members of making our community better.
Geographically, where does LS3P want to expand next outside of the Southeast?
Well, I'm going to go back to our vision, Quintin, which is our commitment to the Southeast. And because of that, we are truly committed to staying in the Southeast. We think it's great to be able to wake up every morning and serve the community where you live. It's great to go to the grocery store and run into a client and say, hey, we love working with your team. We don't want to be on airplanes all the time. We like to be able to travel within a great working distance and collaborate together within our own geographic region. So our commitment to the Southeast is truly that. It allows us to serve our clients and also live and work where we do our business. What's interesting about that is every project we do, we have to stand behind. We're not gonna finish a project, jump on an airplane and fly back to Chicago and never see our client again. We see them every day. So there's an important relationship there between architect and client, and also that commitment to building excellence over many years. So it's important to us. I would say stay tuned. We're always looking at expanding our reach to our clients in the Southeast. So
To be continued. Marc Marchant, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
it was a pleasure to be with you. I've really enjoyed your show for many years. A lot of great friends have been on it, and you do a wonderful job for our community, Quintin. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
All right.